Yeah, for everyone who doesn't know, we record these webinars and we put them on our business, David Eccles School of Business YouTube channel. So you can find all of the previous episodes we've done this year. We started our new series. This is called our Eccles Alumni Network Career Lab. So thank you for joining us for our third episode. And yeah, so if you're curious, I'll post a link later in the webinar to our YouTube, and you can find our previous episodes. But yeah, we're really thankful for everyone joining us here on a beautiful summer day wherever you're calling in from, and we're really excited to talk about career resilience and dealing with challenges really wherever you are in your career. And we're so blessed to have so many experts on campus. And one of them is our presenter today, Rebecca McDonald, the Director of Business Career Success here at the U. So I will hand it off to Rebecca, and we can give her a warm Zoom welcome and let her go.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. So today you all are coming from all different places. Maybe you woke up a month ago, you went to work and received news that you were laid off. Maybe today you walked into an office dreading your interaction with your boss or someone you supervise because it's just exhausting. Maybe you're somebody who you're opening your computer up today for like the 12th time, applying for jobs, and you're not hearing back. Uh, Also, maybe you just wanted to ask for a promotion recently, you shot your shot and you got turned down again. And so, if that's you, or if you're in that bucket, you are in the right place. So, one thing I want you to add to our group discussion in the chat: what career obstacle are you facing? It can be small things, it can be big things, but we're going to start adding those to our group chat so we can talk about those a little bit later. It doesn't have to be specifics, just what's something that is on your radar that's a little bit hard that you're going to need this resilience today that we're going to talk about. And so take a moment, add that in. I'm really curious to get a pulse on our audience today. Also, I will have a couple copies of Brene Brown's book, Rising Strong, that we'll give away at a couple of points today. And I want you to think back on your career. Maybe you're not going through something right now, but this is just more like a preventative health type workshop where you just want to know, okay, if something challenging comes, how am I going to handle it? But probably in the past, you've been in a situation that was like a valley for your career or a swamp or a pit, and maybe you're in one right now. So today really is about these practical tips of growing that endurance muscle that you can apply to whatever stage of your career that you're in. If you're job searching, if you're in a tricky work environment, if you're trying to figure out a mid-career pivot or a layoff happened, this will help any situation like that. So just to jump into who I am. So as Zach said, my name is Rebecca McDonald. I am the director of our business career team, and my master's is in counseling psychology. So I'm always interested in a little bit deeper of our career journey and understanding how we can endure the challenges. And so I'm really excited to talk to you all today and bring that wealth of knowledge to help you as alumni from the University of Utah. When I think about career resilience, I mean, I think about different things in my own life that maybe you can relate to. For me, I had to figure out how to be a working mom of twins. So I'm a twin parent, and that's a journey. I also think about COVID, going through like the pandemic and different challenges there. I've been overseeing different mergers of teams, different impacts of budgets, legislative adjustments. I even currently now navigating something where I need career resilience. So we're all in this together. And my hope is that we'll learn together and create better communities through our resilience. So a couple of things that are my objective for you today. We're going to try to create a little bit of hope through actionable steps that we can take, learning some real practices that you could use today. And then I also have a bonus about how to use a little bit of AI in a situation that you might be going through. So that's our roadmap for today. The first thing, if you'll just allow me to put my academic hat on for a minute and frame this in what's called hope action theory. So this is a career search theory, and the idea behind this is that we have to create some sort of hope. The opposite of hope is despair. And how can we do that in our careers? I was reading a book by Adam Grant who was talking about grief in the context of grief and how grief can feel personal, pervasive, and permanent. So, personal is like, this is a personal attack, this is about me and my worth. Pervasive, it's just evading every part of my life, my personal life, my work life, my hobbies. And then permanent, this challenge will never go away. Like, it's never going to get better, or things will never improve. So those are the three P's that we can feel, like personal, pervasive, permanent, when we're going through something that's challenging. And so this theory is about how can we travel from that despair into hope. And it's about creating a goal. Um, Oftentimes, when we're thinking about hope, it feels like a wish or a dream, but hope is more than that. When we look at research, it shows that identifying a goal and taking action toward that actually drives and creates hope in our career journey. So, let me give you a visual to explain really what I'm saying here. This pinwheel is a visualization of how to generate hope in this theory. And we're going to be doing some of these things today, but I wanted to walk you through a little bit of the foundation. So the first thing, and we're going to do this today, is self-reflection. This is, what do I know about myself? What's important to you? What's your why? And we'll talk about that. As you are growing in your self-reflection, it's going to bring then clarity around, who am I at work? What does success look like to me? What things are important to me? What do I need to change? And then we start to vision based off of that. The visioning is, okay, what's that ideal future? Not a perfect future, but what's important to me and how can we get there? A lot of us get stuck right here in the visioning. Okay, here's what I want to see, here's what I wish was different, and we kind of sit in that. But the next step then is to move into that goal setting and planning. What actions do I need to take that I'm in control of? Because I can't control other people, but what are the things I can control? And then starting to implement those things and then adapt and adjust. Now, you'll notice with this pinwheel, these different steps that we can take are all surrounded by our environment. Our environment impacts our process. That could be our company culture, our own supervisor, our direct reports, our home environment while we're searching for a job. That affects how the pinwheel goes. And so, a lot about hope action theory is to keep our hope flexible so that we can build resilience as our environment continues to change. Okay, so let's jump into it now about what is resilience. What are we actually talking about today? The good news here is that resilience is a skill, not a trait. So that means it can be developed. So if you are like, hey, I'm not great at this, this is why I'm here today, that's awesome, because you only have up to go. And we're going to talk about these really practical skills that you can learn. Resilience in the career context is what helps us through things like losing a job, burnout, rejection, and some of the other words when we are looking at resilience are recovery, adaptability, and emotional strength. So those are pieces. And oftentimes you'll hear about post-traumatic stress. That's the things that happens after something traumatizing and tricky and challenging. But there's also post-traumatic growth. And that is what the journey of resilience takes us to, is our post-traumatic growth. So it's not toxic positivity of like everything's going to be okay. It's not numbing through or like avoiding your feelings. It really is about flexibility. So you can read the definition from the American Psychological Association right here. But for me, the part here is it's about adapting and flexibility. And some of us are a little bit more adaptive and flexible than others. And so this really is a skill that has to be learned and practiced, especially in the context of your career. So one thing about me is I am a musician, and part of the journey of being a musician is you have to fail loudly, because if you're not failing loudly, then you lacked confidence and you weren't going to perform well anyway. So you have to have this really high confidence to perform well. And so recently when I was playing, we all ended, and I just ended on this really loud dissonant chord while everyone else was on the right thing. And we all just had to laugh together because I was just so confident that that was what I was supposed to be doing, but it sounded horrible. And so really with resilience, I view it as like failing loudly, but continuing to move forward. And it's really enduring unmet expectations and disappointments of an option B. We all have our option A that we dreamed about, that we wanted to happen, our expectations. And ultimately, resilience is enduring, hey, what's plan B? What's option B? And let's do that and endure that well. Okay, so now I really want to talk about a couple of practices, if you will, so that we can build your resilience portfolio. The first one we're going to talk about is your why. We're going to examine problems. We're going to talk about holistic self-care practices with time. We're going to talk about community, and then Brené Brown's Rising Strong framework. So the first is why. What is your why? When career change happens, if we are not grounded in our why, then we don't have this North Star. We really don't know what to prioritize, what I need to be stressed about or not stressed about, how to make decisions. So I want you to take a moment right now and think about, why are you doing what you're doing today, like in your career or your career search? And the why could just be, I need to put a meal on the table. Like I need to pay rent. I need to pay my mortgage. It could be that. It also might be, the why is the type of industry that you're in, or the impact that you have on certain clients, or a certain value that you hold that you get to achieve in your work. So really think about that. What is your why in the current situation that you're in? Because you might start to realize, am I accomplishing my why? And if so, awesome. But if not, okay, what are my next steps? What should I do about that? Because if you don't know your why, then you don't know your walking away point. And the why identifies what's going to motivate you through those challenging things. So if you want to open your notes app or grab a piece of paper or a sticky note, whatever, just you can frame it this way. I do this because ... Why do you do this? Why are you doing the work that you're doing? And some of you might already know exactly why you're doing your work. So again, this can be as simple as a paycheck. I just need a paycheck to make it through. But over time, I hope it is grounded in more than that. We want to get to a spot where it's more than that. So, okay, I would love for a couple people to come off mute and just share, like, what's your why? Do you have one clearly outlined? And what is that at your current role? So jump off mute and let's hear from the audience.
You can go ahead, Steph.
Hey, one of the things here, I'll just come off camera too. One of the things that I think about when I ask the why is, I do this, and I'm relating this to my career. I do this because I bring value to my customers and I like helping others to solve problems. That really drives me every single day.
Absolutely. I love that. And it has a couple different pieces. It's not just one thing. It's multi-layered there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie.
If you want to raise your hand too, we can call on you if that's more comfortable. Or you can put it in the chat if you don't want to come off mute. Okay, Travis.
Yes, I work at the U Hospital, and I've done it because I like helping people, just like Stephanie said. But I now have children, and I like to set a good example for resiliency. Like everyone has difficulties, so I honestly try to share with them the stuff I have at work that can be hard, so they know, like, the path is not always smooth. As they get older, they'll be ready for things and life's experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So now it's not just for you, it's this example that you're modeling and showing to your kids. That's great. All right, Wilhelmina.
You're muted, Wilhelmina. There you go.
Yes, my why was to make an impact. My why was to add value directly to humans, like mission focus. And I actually find myself unemployed now because I walked away from a very good paying job because it was not fulfilling my why. I felt like it was paying the bills, and that was about it. So I walked away.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. I think that's a really brave thing to do, is to say, okay, this isn't fulfilling my whys. And if I have the ability to do it, can I walk away? So thank you for sharing that. Okay, please add more in the chat. We'd love to see what your whys are. This is really the foundation of knowing when to walk away, when to stay, if your job is really filling that for you. So once we have that, one thing to do in this world of chaos where there's lots of change is really think about, what are the problems I need to prioritize? So we can often feel out of control, and sometimes we are out of control. We're not the decision maker of every decision. And sometimes we have to understand, okay, I'm going to get frustrated. What is worthy of my frustration? So cue the picture of this sticky note on here. This is at my desk, and it says, it is just not that serious. Because I'm an idealist, I'm high justice, I have this idea of how things should go, and they don't often go that way, and that can be frustrating. And so I have to really remind myself, what is the most important thing that I need to take seriously, and what can I say, hey, we're just gonna roll with this. This is a change that we can adapt to. I often tell my team that, hey, we're not doing brain surgery. And so I realized that I do have actual like healthcare professionals on this call, and maybe you are doing brain surgery. And so it is serious. But for many of us, it's like we aren't doing brain surgery. And so really figuring out, what can I react to? What's worthy of my emotional reaction? Because if we're reacting at 100 for everything, that's where we're going to burn out. And so really prioritizing the problems to figure out, what can I control? And the burnout is what happens when we have these different demands on us, and that is outpacing our personal resources to cope with the changes. So the point here is really prioritizing what you're going to care about. Yes, there are things on your job that you really do need to care about. And then what is the other things that you can care less about? Now, when I talked about burnout and outpacing our resources, a big part of our personal resources is assessing ourselves in some key areas of wellness. If you're going to meet with a counselor or a wellness person, a lot of times they'll take you through this exercise where you look at the 6 dimensions of wellness. So psychological, emotional, personal, physical, professional, and spiritual. And if you want to do this as an exercise, you can. Typically, they'll say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, like rank yourself on these. Like, are emotional, I'm at a 5, or psychological, I'm at a good 10. Things are fine. Maybe physical, I'm at a 2. I need to like figure some physical things out. And so you look at these different dimensions because when times are good, like things are going well, we might not be engaging in all of this. But when challenge comes, at least one thing that I have realized is I have to like ramp up in each of these. So if I'm not, then I'm really like self-sabotaging my own success. So for an example, like when I'm going through some really challenging things, I'm going to bed earlier, I'm trying to work out more, which is a little counterintuitive because I think there's like, hey, I want to just be reactive to this. And you might even need other kinds of like mental health support, and that's great. But looking at this to say, how can these different practices support where I'm going and what I'm trying to do in my career, right? And self-care doesn't mean spending money. I think that is a misconception. It just means prioritizing some things over other things. And our conversation today is really about like career resilience, right? And so what you do outside of work supports your experience in your career. So think on this wheel and think about, okay, if I were to rank myself, like 1 is like, I'm not doing any of these things at all. 10 is I do this every day. I'm feeling really good about that. Look at these dimensions and say, okay, where do I need to maybe up my efforts? Whether that's like personal, like maybe I've forgotten all my hobbies because I was so busy at work and now I'm laid off and like, who am I? What are the hobbies I do? Like maybe that's it. And so think about it from this holistic wheel. And one thing when I think about building resilience and self-care, I often think about time. So I have a personal rule that when something intense happens, I give everything like 24 hours. Obviously, if it's like harassment or HR violation, do not give it time. Like that's not what we're talking about here, but really about challenging conversations, situations you walk away from, a job rejection, a rude comment, a project that gets dumped on you. That's what we're talking about. Because we are living in like a really fast-paced society where we're very reactionary, we're about clapping back, but time is what brings the perspective. So, okay, you didn't get the promotion the first time. What skills can we work on and then give it a certain amount of time before we revisit that? Or you had a weird conversation with someone and you walked away feeling like that was not quite right. Reaching out to that person to say, hey, here's what I took away from that conversation. Can we try again? So time can really bring that perspective. And I know that this can be really tricky for some of us who are a little bit more reactionary. And so I read this phrase recently it's basically give yourself a second score. So even if like you got an F on your first score, which just means in the way that you handled a situation, maybe you got an F, you can get an A in how you handle it. And I think that's really powerful because we're not perfect people. Like we are going to have tricky situations that we don't handle well. So maybe you're self-aware enough to realize that, and you can go back and handle that in a different way. So an example of this for me is I had to go back and apologize for a comment that I made in frustration in a meeting. And I felt like, yes, like the comment was true, but it wasn't in line with my values and how I want to share something and how I want to frame it and how I want to treat other people. So I had to go back and do some apologies. And that's my second score. So when you give yourself time, you can consider this wide range of possible interpretations and transform your default responses. In that, you can then give yourself that second score. So I loved that. It's something that I heard a couple weeks ago, and I think it's a really powerful way to think about how to solve problems that we come into. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is when we're talking about these practices, we're often talking about like what are the things I can do, and it's very much me-centered and individualistic, and maybe depending on your background, you think it's your job to like power through a tricky situation, to stuff the emotions, like grit your teeth, let's go through this. But the reality is that when something challenging happens, you can't skip day 2. So what that means is when you're in the dark and the door is closed behind you and there's no light ahead of you, this is where community is essential. And so in Brene Brown's book, she talks about like you can't skip that day 2. We have to have high quality connections. This even impacts our immune system. Like research shows that our friendships impact our bodies physically. So these high quality connections, I'll call them, they can be professional, they can be personal. These are just people who are there for you in 3 ways that I want to outline. The first is they're accountable. So they can hold you accountable to maybe check yourself, to be like, hey, I don't know if that situation is how you're interpreting it. If you have friends that are always agreeing with you, that is probably a red flag, right? You need people that say, oh, actually, this is how I understand that situation from what you told me. So there's this accountability, there's story sharing, where they can say, I've been through that too. And that reduces some of the loneliness. And then there's joy. So we can accept help from our community. One of the authors of a book that I was reading, Black Joy, she said, joy is an inside job. Joy is perfectly capable of living alongside fear. And I thought that was really beautiful because sometimes we think, oh, joy, that doesn't have anything to do with the situation I'm in. And it's like, no, it can coincide with scary things and tricky and challenging things. And that's why community is important, because that's where a lot of that joy is cultivated. So those are some practices that you can start working on today. I want you to pull one out, try it on this week and see what's going to support you. And we're going to now talk about the Rising Strong process, which is in Brene Brown's book. So if you don't know who Brene Brown is, she is a leading researcher at the University of Utah, at the University of Texas in Austin. And so she frames it this way in her book, that there are 3 ways that we rise strong after a challenge. So the 3 ways that she outlines is, the first is there's this reckoning. So after something like challenging, traumatic, or a shift, we have to really recognize and understand what's going on with our feelings, reckon with the situation. Like, we can't avoid it. We can't pretend it didn't happen. A lot of times we do, right? We might numb out, we might doom scroll, we might gossip, we might complain, or just try to like push forward without even acknowledging the reality. But did we sit with our feelings? Did we talk with our high quality connections about it? And this is really the moment to like recognize and feel those feelings. We're not traditionally great at that. And so that's the reckoning part. We got to feel those feelings in a safe community. The rumble, this part is really interesting to me, because this is where we look at our story that we're telling ourselves to examine that event and what happened. So getting curious to be like, okay, here's what I experienced, but like, was that the reality? And we reality check like our own narrative and story that we are telling ourselves. This is really hard. I'll just be honest, this is really hard because we have a bias that like our experience and our reality was the reality. And so some questions that she recommends here is, okay, what do I know objectively about the situation that I'm in? What's underneath my reaction? What part did I play in this? And this is the rumble, because it's not like it's very much kind of like a wrestling back and forth. And this is when it's really important for that community to bring outside perspective, because we can take limited data points and create a really intense story. And so the one way I've heard that explained is that we conspiracy theory ourselves. So we conspiracy theory our situation, where we take these little data points, we make the story, and we're living in that reality. So the rumble is really like, okay, is this the reality? Once we've done that, that's when we can really learn forward. We've dealt with our emotions, we kind of challenge our assumptions, and now how do we rise strong and adapt to our situation? Okay, so I know I've just talked a lot of different things, and really it's a way for you to kind of pull things out that resonate with you. But I want to pause for a minute and maybe think about some scenarios that you're in. I'd love to hear a couple scenarios. Again, we don't need the whole story, but just, hey, here's a little short thing that I'm going through, and this is why I'm going to need some resilience. So I'd love to give a couple of copies of the books away. So if you could come off mute and just share, just broad, here's something tricky that I'm going through, and we can chat through how we could use some of these practices.
Hello.
Who's feeling brave? Awesome. All right, Wilhelmina, thank you.
I mean, I didn't hear anybody saying anything, so here I go. So I think for me, and I don't know, maybe this exercise may help. I keep telling myself that no, you shouldn't be doing this pivot at this time. It's not it's not the best time. You are too old to do this. It's going to take forever. I mean, you are not going to find anything that will fit your education and experience. I mean, I hear voices like, okay, nobody is even going to hire you, right? You should have stayed on the other job and get another one before quitting. You know, I mean, I don't I don't know how much of this is true or real, but here it is.
Yeah. And that's exactly it, is we tell ourselves a story about what we're experiencing it. And some might be true, but this is especially important in the job search because we can start to really make assumptions about like the rejection that we're going through, like, oh, there's something wrong with me, or I'm not the best candidate, or in your situation, you took this risk to get out of this job that wasn't serving you. And now you're like, oh, well, was that the right choice? But you're in it right now, right? And so I think other people as well, what I've heard recently from students who are searching and others is receiving a lot of like rejections after hundreds of applications. And they get to the final round, but then they're ghosted by a company. So all of that in the job searching space is really hard. And this is where this career resilience comes into place, about finding the mentors that you can talk to, setting a goal that can bring you a little bit of hope. We talked about at the beginning, but maybe that goal is like, hey, your ultimate goal is to find a job. That is not necessarily something you can control. So the goal you can control is, okay, I'm going to network with one person a week, and I'm going to apply to 5 jobs with like a specialized cover letter and an outreach. That's something that you can control, and you can feel like you've achieved something while you're in this challenging situation. So thanks so much for sharing that, Wilhelmina. I think that's where a lot of people are in their job search. And you can start having those stories to yourself about like, oh, who's going to hire me? Maybe I'm too old. Like all these different things come into our minds, and we have to really challenge those things. So thank you for sharing that. Zach will connect with you on getting one of these books. Okay, one more person. Who else would like to share?
I did see we have Janet trying to share as well, but I'm not sure if her mic's working.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My laptop's not working, but my phone does. So there you go.
Awesome. Thanks, Janet.
What I was going to share is I'm in a situation where I have a lot to offer and a lot of years experience and a vision for the growth of the program that I'm in my current company. The challenge I'm facing is I've been unsuccessful to date to convince the institution that they're ready for that. But the rumor mill is they'll do that after you leave your position. They'll restructure and write a job description for that. And that I find a little frustrating and belittling, frankly. So I'm not sure what I do with that. Like, do I just continue the fight? It's not a fight. Do I continue to persist, or do I just start looking elsewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a question that many of us have to assess in our different careers. Is maybe it's a tricky environment. Like yours is a situation where you can see like some strategy that needs to change. And that's not, it's not being persuaded. It's not persuasive enough for some reason. Some other tricky environments I think about are like toxic bosses, or just overworking, challenging structures, things that like you might have ideas that aren't being heard. And I think in those situations, we can really start to like catastrophize of like, this is never going to change. And so I think like, it's hard with this because, you know, you want to prioritize your problems. Like, is this a big enough problem that it's going to keep you from your why, keep you from like your experience of your job? Or is this something where like, yeah, it would be nice, like it would be really great, this would be an ideal situation, but can I still do my job? And you have to kind of journey through that. Some phrases that I like to think about as these different challenges are going on is, the first one is like, hey, I don't have to run away at the first sign of struggle. So that's especially for people new in their career. They're going through experiences and they're like, oh, this isn't great, or this is challenging, or this person didn't listen to me. So it's, I don't have to run away at the first sign of struggle. But then it's also like, I don't have to prove something by staying in the wrong place. That's the other phrase. I don't have to prove something by staying in the wrong place. I don't have to, like, I can be flexible with what I've built. So it's okay to outgrow something that I really worked hard to build, or that I'm really passionate about. That's okay too. So thanks so much for sharing that. I hope that you can pull some of these practices that we've talked about today to help you kind of assess your why there. So, okay. So thank you so much. Appreciate that participation. The one thing that I wanted to share is creating a stay plan. So we want to use this if you are trying to figure out, do I stay? How do I stay? What does that look like? So this is a little bonus that you can use this prompt in AI and start filling it out. And then you can kind of work through different iterations and drafts. So you can use this prompt, help me create a stay plan template for my current job that outlines purpose, boundaries, growth plan, resilience practices, and evaluation as headings. So then it'll give you a little outline like this. And you can fill out like, here's my why, like we talked about that. Here's my boundaries. Here's my growth plan. Here's what I'm going to evaluate it. So then you have a little bit more structure. So you're not just sitting there like, oh, do I stay? Do I go? But you've really thought through it. This can be a great game changer for evaluation. It's easy to go into these extremes of like, I want to escape my job, or like, I can never leave. And so this really grounds us in thinking through and being intentional and accountable. So creating that stay plan there. Okay. I think that's a little fun bonus there. Okay, so then finally, this be a resilience leader. This is one of the takeaways here. Your body's alarm system is like a smoke detector. I like the framing of this is that a smoke detector is like really sensitive to anything. Sometimes there really is a fire, and other times the alarm goes off for something harmless. And so resilience gives you the resources to monitor that internal alarm system and say, okay, is there a fire? And how am I going to get through a fire versus, okay, like there's some things that are going on, but it's just like maybe my batteries are getting low and that's the problem. And it's a me and I need to work on that. Or maybe it's like, no, there's a fire and I need to get out. And so you are the person who assesses that. So really here, I would encourage you, you're all amazing alumni, to be a resilience leader in your office, to model that resilience. And we shared earlier with like modeling it for your family. If you have a family, setting up communication channels in your teams that like really reduce ambiguity for others, that create a positive culture, like you can be a change maker here. So as we're wrapping up our time here, I would just love in the chat, like one thing that you want to implement today, one resilience practice that you learned, something, a little takeaway, a phrase that you picked up on that you want to use in whatever situation you're in. I'd love to see those. And as those are coming in, we are going to hear from Zach. We're going to do a grand prize drawing, if you will, for everyone attending here today. And I'm so glad that you all were here to learn about these practices. It's something I'm passionate about. So really thank you everyone for participating. Continue to participate. And I'm going to turn it over to Zach for a prize.
Awesome. Thank you, Rebecca. So we're going to do just using good old Excel. I've entered everyone's names into a spreadsheet here, and we're going to do a grand prize drawing for a Eccles School swag pack. So I will I'll hit the little random generator here. 28. That is Sydney Larson. Congratulations. Are you on the call still? Awesome. Let's see. So yes. All right. Congrats, Sydney. I will connect with you to get your Eccles School swag pack sent over to you. And I'm also going to share really quickly one our little survey here in the chat. You'll also get this over an email with the recording on YouTube as well if you guys want to go back and look at the presentation again, but we'd appreciate if you took a couple minutes to fill out our survey. An important thing on that survey is we were asking you for other topics you want to see. We're really interested in providing relevant content for you all as alumni, and so we would appreciate if there's anything you're interested in learning more about. We would love to put that on for you. We're going to do these. This is our third career lab, so we're kind of looking at quarterly ones of these. So we'll have a next one coming later in the fall, and moving forward. So make sure to fill that out and let us know if there's other topics you want to see. And yeah, and if anybody, I want to say thank you to Rebecca for facilitating this for us, and then also I guess want to open it up if anyone has a quick question or comment our last minute together here. If not, we can kind of go on with our beautiful day. But thank you again for being here.
Zach,
Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, guys.
Zach, how do I connect with you to get my copy of the?
Yes. Could you, let's see, I'm gonna send you my email just here in the chat, and then let me know if you want a physical copy or a ebook, and we will mail that to you.
Yeah,
or,
ebook.
or deliver it.
But
Okay, awesome. And same thing to you, Janet. Just let me know. Let's see. I can see if you, yeah, physical copy. Okay, Janet, if you just want to email me, let me get you my email.